What's up, Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members? Again, thanks for being pro members of Table Rock Fishing Intel. As far as an update on the app, we're still probably a month away. We were hoping to having it launched by today, August 15th, but that didn't happen. But we are working on it. We are still trying to work through all the things that Apple and Google want before you can put an app on the app store. So hopefully within the next 30 to 40 days, we will have the app up and make it much easier for you guys to use your phones, tablets, or whatever to access all the information that you are using on a daily basis. As far as our lake level is concerned, we're at 914.25, so 2 3/4 feet below normal summer pool. But we did come up 3/4 of a foot with all this rain, so it has made a bit of a difference. Of course, still running water every afternoon out of all the lakes to meet power demand, so I wouldn't expect it to stay this high unless we get a little bit more rain or unless the temperatures stay cool like they are right now and they don't need the power. Water temperature, we're right around 85. I've seen warmer before this front came through. I saw cooler today. But anywhere from 83 to 87 seems to be the norm, so we're going to say it's 85 as an average. But the bite has been good. Things are changing just a little bit, so we'll get into that here in a minute. Of course, you guys know, use your Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro membership to get all that information on a daily basis. We're trying to put as many reports and as much information on there for you as possible. Again, I would ask that if you have any friends that fish, family members that fish Table Rock, that you introduce them to Table Rock Fishing Intel, and hopefully they will become members as well and save a little money before we get the app online when the price is going to increase. But if you're going to come down, fish the lower end of the lake, you know, the lower end, fished out there Sunday. JP Sell had his Fishing Dreams event for the kids from Camp Barnabas and had a little girl on the boat, went down syndrome. She caught, I don't know, 5 or 6 fish. We lost a few others. Of course, we were night crawler fishing then, but the premise is the same. We actually caught them on some points on the bottom, 28 to 32 foot deep that day. That's something that is starting to happen all over the lake, especially down on the lower end. We are starting to see just the slightest beginnings of a thermocline. So we are starting to see the fish not just relating to the trees, not just relating to the docks, but starting to relate to the bottom. 28 to about 32 foot deep seems to be the norm. If I'm not fishing with a 16-year-old with Down syndrome, I'm using a shed shape, a cut tail, a UV drop shot worm, or a Tromper's drop shot worm, fishing the bottom, or I'm going to go fish the treetops, primarily in that same 25 to 30, even 40 foot range if I'm not seeing much of a thermocline. It's where the fish are. Same with on the cables, 20 to 35, 40 feet deep on those dock cables seems to be good as well. That bite is, of course, better in the morning before the sun gets up, and then those fish slide back underneath the dock. Beyond that, on the lower end, we have been catching a few on top water, around the ends of the docks, around the wave breaks, but that is a first thing in the morning deal. I mean, you've got to be out there before the sun comes up and hit those wave breaks, hit those bigger docks, especially the ends of those bigger docks, with either a plopper, whopper plopper, or a popper. Little bit with the shower blow, but it seems like they want that smaller bait, and you've got to have it pretty tight to that bank to get bit. Don't think you're going to load the boat doing that. You'll get 3 or 4 bites. You'll probably land 2 or 3 of those fish, but there is a little bit of a topwater bite going on down there. If you go further up Long Creek, where you got a lot more options once you get into Arkansas, you've got a decent dragon bite with a Pee Wee HD football jig, Pee Wee HD spider jig, Carolina rig, shaky head, whatever you like to throw, whatever you like to drag. You can catch a few out there off of those gravel roll-offs. You got a flat that comes out, has a significant drop-off of 5 to 15 feet. That's a roll-off. Catching those fish on those roll-offs, like I said, 15 to 25 foot deep, dragging these baits. The bite is definitely better, though, in the afternoon when they've got a little bit of water running, or if you're up a creek, up a river where you've got some fresh water coming in. The current really seems to position those fish and get them a lot more excited. So that's definitely been a good bite up Long Creek. And then we did catch a few. I was in the back of Yoakum, and we caught a few on a buzzbait and a whopper plopper first thing in the morning, right up against the bank, around whatever wood or rock cover I could find. In the very, very back, when it's flat, they're on wood. If you're more working your way back in there, they're more on the ledge rock stuff, but they are right up against the bank, and you basically almost have to put your bait on dry land to get bit. So keep that in mind as well. Coming to Kimberling City area, and again, drop shot, drop shot, drop shot, drop shot. I'm as tired of it as you guys are, probably more so because I'm tired of staring at my screen. But the drop shot bite has been strong. Shad shape, cut tail, UV drop shot worm, chompers drop shot worm. Again, treetops 25 to 35, dot cables 20 to 40, and we are starting to catch some on some gravel, on some long gravel runouts, on some of the humps out there in that 25, 28 to about 32 foot range. That bite's not great yet, but we are catching a few doing that as well, so keep that in mind. Scuba spoon, LS spin bite has been good as well, either dropping right on them on those same locations, or I have been seeing more and more shad being pushed to the surface and fish chasing them, usually first thing in the morning to about 8:30, 9 o'clock. We've been catching a few doing that as well, throwing it out there, letting it fall into the school, and then just ripping it. Rip it as fast as you can, let it fall back. Let it rip, fall back, let it rip, fall back. That's been good. The dragging bite's been good as well, like around Joe Bald, where you've got a flat that's got some roll-offs and some ditches in it. Same sort of deal. Pee Wee HD football jig, Pee Wee HD spider jig, Carolina rig, shaky head, whatever you want to throw at them that you like to work on the bottom. But the fish have been anywhere from about 18 to about 30 foot deep. Work that slowly along the bottom, down into those ditches. Again, that bite is much better if they've got some current running. And then the spoon bite around docks has really started to turn on. This is a deal you're not going to go and catch 30, 40 fish in a day. This is where you're targeting some better fish. I've been doing well with either the Dixie Jet, the big Dixie Jet spoon, I think they call it the Falcon, that's got the extra hooks on the side of it, or I've been doing well with the Watson Worldwide spoon, pitching to the shade, hitting those deeper docks, throw it up into the shade, feed it line, feed it line, feed it line. Most of my bites are coming in the first probably 20 feet of the drop. I've not been catching a lot right on the bottom, but I will let it go all the way to the bottom, rip it a couple of times, reel it up, and make another pitch. Use heavy line, guys. Use 20-pound fluoro or heavier, because you're going to hook a lot of crap underneath these docks. So that's been a good bite in the Kimberling City area as well. Go up the James, a lot of bites happening up the James. Lower end of the James, you've got the same drop shot bite that we've talked about on the other end of the lake, around docks, on the flats, around the roll-offs of the flats, and around treetops. So keep that in mind. You can catch them on the scuba spoon and the LS spin as well. Out there on the edge of those flats where they're chasing shad, that's kind of a deal where you need to just have that bait laying on your deck, whether it's the LS or it's the scuba spoon. Have that laying on your deck, and if they start busting around you, wing that dude out there and try to catch one. The dragging bite is probably best up the James, especially from about point 12 to Bridgeport. Again, we're looking for those roll-offs, looking for the gravel where it drops, has a good drop on it, 5 to 15, 20 foot drop on it. And most of those fish are going to be right on that drop, or if there's a ditch or something like that, they'll be schooled up in those ditches. I said it last week, if you catch one, catch two, make multiple casts to that same area, because it seems like these fish are really grouped up. And once you get one to bite, you're going to get the rest of the school to bite. Better baits I've been using have definitely been the Pee Wee HD football jig. Doing pretty well with a Carolina rig with like a brush hog on it as well. And I was also throwing the Magnum shaky head from Jewel with a brush hog on it. So those baits are working really well on that roll-off bite. And then the buzzbait Whopper Plopper shallow bite, did that on a guide trip on Friday to the back of a couple of creeks. As we were working our way back, we were just staying on the rocky flat stuff, and those fish were in no water. And I don't want you guys to think I'm catching like 50 fish back in there. I'm catching 8, 10, maybe 12 fish back in the backs of these creeks first thing in the morning, and I'm going as far back as I can get my boat. I'll drag my trolling motor on the bottom or lift my trolling motor to get to a piece of cover back there. I caught one about 3.5 pounder last week on a stump, and it was so shallow I could actually see the roots coming off of the stump that were laying on the bottom. It couldn't have been more than 6 inches deep. Threw my buzzbait by it, worked it right next to it. The fish just came up and slurped it, and like I said, it's about a 3.5 pounder. So there are some fish back in there shallow, especially first thing in the morning, especially if you see shad back in the backs of these creeks. Hit the ledge rock and any wood on the way back, get to the very back, and hit the wood cover on the flats. That's where we've been catching them doing that. Go up the White River. The White River continues to have a great deep bite. Just like everywhere else on the lake, drop shot is king. Hopefully, now we're probably 6 weeks away before I quit talking about the drop shot so much. But anyway, drop shot's been king either on trees, 25 to 35, dock cables, 20 to 40, and there's some on the flats. I mean, the flat bite is starting to turn on. We're starting to see a little bit of a thermocline, and most of those fish have been in that 26 to about 32 foot range, using a shad shape, cut tail, UV drop shot worm, all the normal stuff. Scuba spoon and LS spin, that chasing those fish, chasing shad. That bite has been best up the White River, bar none. Really from about Big Creek up all the way to above Big M. We've got a lot of spotted bass and the occasional largemouth mixed in with them that are coming up. And actually that bite is better when the sun comes up a little bit, because it tends to bring those shad to the surface and those fish will follow them. And you've got to have that 1 ounce weight that the LS spin and the scuba spoon have, because usually they're not going to bust 10 feet from you. They're going to bust about 40, 50, 80, 100 feet away from you. So you're going to be making a long cast, throw it through there, and rip that spoon back, rip that LS spoon back, and kill it. Most of your bites are going to come when you kill it, but that's a fun way to catch some fish for the first couple of hours in the morning. The dragging bite, especially in the Kings and further up the White, has been really good on the gravel roll-offs again. You know, flat drops right there on that drop. Pee Wee HD football jig, Pee Wee HD spider jig, Carolina rig with a brush hog, or a big shaky head, the Magnum shaky head. All those have been working, catching those fish, just working it down into those gravel, off that gravel, on that roll-off, getting bites doing that. Again, keep in mind, if you catch one fish, there's probably more fish in a specific location, so make multiple casts if you catch a fish. And then the big worm bite, I didn't talk about it in the James, but it's working in the James, it's working in the Kings, it's working in the Upper White, and it's probably working up in Long Creek. Just haven't done it very much. Throwing a 10 to a 14-inch worm, Texas rig in the brush piles. Most of the fish I'm catching on the brush piles have been at least 12, most of them 15 to 20 foot deep. I have talked to some guys that have been catching them a little bit shallower than that, but targeting those brush piles, throwing that big worm, working it slow. We'll just lift and drop over every limb, and hitting that brush pile from different angles makes a huge difference on how many fish you're gonna catch. But the big worm bite is definitely on and should continue all the way through September. Guys, we are halfway through August, yay! We're almost done with the silly season. We got one more crazy holiday to deal with, but the boat traffic during the week is definitely down. The weekend was a little bit hairy, but we had some weather, so that kind of kept people away. But the boat traffic during the week has definitely been down, so if you can fish during the week, more power to you. I know JP Sell has his Fish for Tails tournament this Saturday from 6:30 to 12:30. I think it's out of Ahoy's, Table Rock Resorts, whatever they're calling them now. That should be a fun event. So there's going to be a lot of fishing going on this weekend. There's going to be a lot of fish caught this weekend because they're biting. It's been pretty good. Of course, you guys know best way to stay on top of it. Use your Table Rock Fishing Intel membership to get all those reports and all that information we put out for you on a daily basis. But if you want to hire a guy, go out and catch some fish and see if I'm full of crap or if I'm actually catching them. Either way, get a hold of me. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743 or hit my website, focusfishing.com, and you can either book online or just shoot me an email. Either way, I get back to you as soon as I can. Again, thanks for being Table Rock Fishing Intel members, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.